On today's episode, we will have an interview with Lauren Carr, who wrote the book Ice, a Chris Matheson cold case mystery. Then we will announce our next book in our mystery books A to Z authors.
Welcome.
Hi, welcome back.
We're your hosts, Ann Dark
and Tracy Stormy.
And this is It Was a Dark and Stormy Book Club.
We are very excited today because this is our very first live author interview.
And we're going to talk to Lauren Carr, who's the best-selling author, and she has 4 series that she's writing. And we are very excited to talk to her. We will get to our review after our interview. I hope you enjoy it.
Stay tuned. Lauren Carr is a prolific author who fell in love with mysteries when her mother read Perry Mason to her at bedtime. The first installment in her Joshua Thornton mystery series, A Small Case of Murder, was a finalist for the Independent Publishers Book Award. She is a popular speaker who has made appearances in schools, youth groups, and on other panels at conventions. She also passes on what she learns in her years of writing and publishing by conducting workshops and teaching in community education classes. She lives with her husband and son and 2 dogs, including the real Sterling, in Harpers Ferry, West Virginia. Welcome.
Yeah, and that is Sterling. I'm going to put Sterling out front. It sounds like a werewolf. I'm actually on a schedule. I've gotten on a schedule that I do a book every 3 to 4 months. A new book comes out, and I try to do one for each series a year. Sometimes I will get inspired. Something will hit me for a storyline, and then I'll end up putting a book aside. I actually did that with, and then I will have people who are waiting for a particular book in a series, and they'll say, well, why did you delay that? And that happened to me in 2016 because I was working on a lovers in crime book that was Killer in the Band, and I actually got like halfway through that book, and the primaries were happening, the presidential primaries were happening. And I got so inspired, I was like, what if Gnarly was running for president?
Okay.
So I ended up writing, I actually wrote the rough draft of that book in 6 weeks.
Wow.
So I put Killer in the Band aside, because I realized I had to get this book out because it was just not... Sometimes I'll have characters who are really picking at me. The character is picking at me to tell a story.
Yeah. Sometimes character in the book help you write the story.
Yeah, sometimes they do. And what I tell people in my classes is, your character is fully developed if you come to a fork in the road, and your character will tell you which way to go.
Yeah.
If you have to force it, and if you do force it to go the other way, and he doesn't want to go the other way, then that character is not fully developed, and people will see that. Readers will see that.
Very interesting.
They will say, he wouldn't do that.
Oh, yeah, your fans will let you know. Well, you just mentioned Sterling. We'd like to hear a little more about Sterling. We kind of fell in love with him in the book.
Oh, well, and you fall in love with him in real life. There is a real Sterling, and his story in Ice is actually there. It's really, well, he wasn't in a shootout. He doesn't play blackjack.
I was going to say, I'll take him to the casino with me.
Yeah. And everything that I write that animals do, there's a lot of animals in my books, and everything that I write, there are animals who have done that. I will look to see if an animal's done that. So the swinging from a tree, there's a video on YouTube, and it's a German Shepherd who he occupies his time by swinging on a tree, and he's actually a law enforcement canine.
Oh, really?
Oh, wow.
But Sterling's story is it's kind of sad. It's kind of happy. I had mentioned Gnarly, who's in the Mac Faraday mystery.
Yes.
And that's where Sterling comes from, even though in my books they're not related. I had created Gnarly in the Mac Faraday mysteries, and he was based on an Australian Shepherd I had. As a matter of fact, he was not even in the rough draft of actually 2 or 3 drafts of It's Murder, My Son. But I had gotten this Australian Shepherd named Ziggy, and I got him as a pup. And he was highly intelligent, but he kept getting into trouble, just like Gnarly. He kept getting into trouble. And I actually had him analyzed, and they said, the analyst said, well, he's just so smart, he gets bored. And so he looks for trouble to get into. So that's Gnarly. Well,
I have a son like that.
yeah, they just so smart, they'll occupy their time, and, well, I'll just get into trouble. And Gnarly's a kleptomaniac. I ended up falling in love with Gnarly so much that the fictional one, that I decided I had to get a real Gnarly. So I got a German Shepherd pup. I went to a breeder, and we'd had German Shepherds before, and so her name was Deb, and she was a friend. I got the real Gnarly. Right after I wrote it, Candidate for Murder, right after that, and I dedicated that book to Gnarly. He came down with canine cancer.
Oh, goodness.
And so 2 months later, like we're talking about 3 or 4 months after that book came out, the real Gnarly passed away.
Oh.
And he had just turned 4 years old like a week before he passed away.
Oh, my goodness, so young.
Yeah, and I was heartbroken. But during the time that he was sick, I kept calling Deb because she was also a friend, the breeder, and she was making suggestions of things to do. Well, whenever she had, if he passes away, she said you can have a pup, pick of the litter when you're ready. When you're ready for another pup, then you can have the pick of the litter. Well, when Gnarly passed away, which was like the first week of December, my husband and I talked about it, and on the day that he passed away, and we were like, we don't really want to go through another pup.
Right.
And we don't want to go through the whole puppy thing again. So the next day when I called Deb, I told her, well, thank you for the offer. I called her to let her know that he had passed away, but I said, thank you for the offer, but we don't really want to deal with a puppy. And she said, well, if you don't want a puppy, maybe you'd be interested in his nephew, in Gnarly's nephew. And she said, it turned out that on the same day that Gnarly passed away, and this was what was in ice, the same day that Gnarly passed away, Sterling, who had just turned a year old, ended up in the animal shelter.
Oh.
He came from Gnarly's sister, litter mate. And Gnarly's sister had gone to another breeder who she microchipped her dogs, her pups. And the people who would buy them, they had to sign an agreement that dog would not go to a shelter. It would go back to the breeder, and she would rehome them. She did not want her dogs in a shelter. And while these people, at 65 miles away from where I lived, 65 miles and a whole state away, the couple were divorcing. Neither one of them wanted a German Shepherd, so they turned him over to an animal shelter. And the microchip, it was still registered to the breeder. So they contacted the breeder. And so whenever she found out that Gnarly passed away, she said, if you go get him from the shelter, you can have him. So that's where Sterling came from.
Oh, wonderful.
Does he change the channels on the radio?
Oh, he does all kinds of stuff. Now Gnarly, the real Gnarly, he would open doors.
Oh, really?
Sterling was, he wasn't opening doors, and then like after about 6 months, he started opening doors. My husband hated that. He hates that because you're sitting in the bathroom.
No privacy.
No privacy. Do you need some help?
Yeah.
Just wanted to have some company.
Some company, yeah.
How did the storyline develop in Ice? Where did you get your ideas for that?
Well, the idea of the Geezer Squad, was I had watched a documentary on Netflix called The Keepers, and it was a documentary.
Oh, yes, I remember. We saw
We're
that.
near Baltimore, so we're very familiar with that.
Yeah, with that. And I noticed in the documentary all the people who were like retirees, each one using their own expertise investigating this case of this nun who had been murdered.
Right.
And so I had this idea, and they talked about how they got kicked out of the Geezer Squad had gotten kicked out of a book club because they would go off on tangents. Because the couple of men who were in this book club, and they would go off on tangents. So I thought that was interesting. It just I get the germ of an idea and it builds.
Yeah.
And I don't write down my ideas because Stephen King actually said this, and I find this very true. If you keep a journal of your ideas, you have like a journal of bad ideas.
Oh.
Because if it's a really good idea, it will stick with you. And I was actually in the middle of writing another book. I'm always in the middle of writing a book. And if at the end of the book, that idea is still with me, then that can take me into the next book. But usually what I will do is I will have the murder case first. It's the mystery first, and then because I have 4 series, I will decide which series to start with that.
Okay.
But in the case of Ice, I had the Geezer Squad, and then I was like, what case would go good with them? Because these characters all just sprang to life. It was all these, different characters. So I did it backwards. I was like, okay, I have the Geezer Squad. What mystery am I going to put with that?
Right.
And I had remembered a mystery that I had started with Max Faraday. And I thought that didn't come to fruition. And I thought, well, I'll take that case. So I actually went looking. I keep cut files.
Are these based on true crimes that have happened, or?
Sometimes they are. Sometimes they're not. In the case of the girl who's missing, that in Ice, that is based on one that I had read of a case a long time ago. But I'll just take the snippet of the idea, and then I go in my own direction with it.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so because, sometimes I'll kind of follow a case to see what happens, a real case, but very often, I scour the news site, what cases, what things have happened, and if it's a really interesting one, it will stick with me. In the case of the girl, and that may sound very familiar to you, with the case of the Peterson.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Yeah, Scott Peterson. Where she disappeared. She was pregnant and she disappeared. That just.
Okay.
And that was a book that I had written, a Max Faraday book I'd written a long time ago. It was just the first draft, and I thought, and so I tucked it away on my laptop, and I went looking for it, and I could not find it. And while looking for it, I found a Joshua Thornton mystery that I wrote back in 2007.
Oh,
That's how old that book was. And that was another one that I had written a whole rough draft, and I thought, and I set it aside. And I just took but I ended up having to rewrite it totally because to make it fit the characters.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I had to do. So basically only like the first 50 or 60 pages were so good, and then the mystery just went in a totally different direction from there.
Well, I must say, Peyton was a wonderful villain. I could just picture this woman slinking through. And then
we all kind of know people like that.
Oh, yeah,
yes,
definitely. We discussed that. And if I have any suggestions for your next book for this series, more Geezer Squad, please.
Yes.
We loved the Geezer Squad.
Yes. And I want to join.
One of my plan is with the Geezer Squad is I want to focus on one geezer each book.
That would be great.
Oh, yes, please.
Yeah, because each one has their own story.
Yeah.
Yep.
And their own expertise. And that's going to be my idea, my direction. But Chris is going to be the anchor for them.
Now,
because he's got a little bit of everything.
Is he going